All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to Nostos Strength and Conditioning, the home of the Nostos S&C podcast. I want to thank you all for your continued support and your comments on the Instagram videos, on YouTube, the downloads on Spotify and Apple Podcasts is much appreciated. If you can keep those coming, that would be excellent. Today, I want to get serious, and to be honest, I want to cut the shit, and we're going to talk about a subject that's very taboo and at the same time very overused, and that is mental health, and specifically male mental health. And to help me discuss this varied and difficult topic, I welcome Mr. Sean Hill.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Too bad. Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm very good. Thanks for coming on. Let's get straight to it. I want to ask you, what does mental health mean to you? It's a buzzword. Mm-hmm. What does it trigger to you? If I say, Sean, what is mental health?
I think mental health is, like you say, a very difficult topic for most people to talk about, mainly men. I think it triggers a bit of a fight or flight response to. It's like a buzzword, so people either dismiss it and try and get off the subject, or more recently, I think people are fairly more open to talking about it, and that's a good sign. Recently, like you say, people say it's overused, but for me, I think the more people talk about it, more people become comfortable, and it helps out many more people out there.
Sure, I agree. I mean, it's definitely seemed to have been something that's come out over the last, let's say, 5 or 10 years. Yep. A lot of people tend to think people use it as an excuse at times. Yep. I suppose it's fair to say. Plenty of women suffer with it, men suffer with it, but I think as we're discussing now, yep, a lot more men it's coming out are actually affected, and probably are living out there certainly untreated.
Yeah, definitely, 100% agree with that. I think it's taken some big sports stars out there to talk about it. It enables other people to then think, okay, it's okay for me to feel this way, and I will talk about it, and it's not a negative, treat it as a positive. I've got out there, I've spoken about it, and I'm doing it to help me, and in the process, if I help one other person, 10 other people, then that's the aim.
Sure. And that's the idea of today, and that's what I want to do, and that's what I want you here for. Because for me personally, mental health to me, anyone who has a mind has mental health. Yep. We all have physical health, we're all aware of that. We know about the dangers of lack of exercise, lack of movement. Yep. I think it's very, very underdocumented, the effects of mental health, how we can deal with it, how we can treat it, how we can affect it, how can we improve it, being very mindful of what can affect it negatively, yep, which can be such a various amount of different things. So mental health will mean a different thing to every single person you would speak to. Yes. Now, why I'm excited to have you on is because for me personally, I've watched you. We went to school together, secondary school, which would be 10 years ago now.
Fair few years ago now.
We played on the school football team together.
Did.
We were in similar groups of friends.
Yep.
Certainly wasn't best friends. Was never enemies, anything like that. No. But not the closest of friends, but
knew each other fairly
well. We knew each other. Yeah. So then we get to about 2-3 years ago. Yeah, we kind of come back in contact. You give me a text, and you ask for a little bit of my time. You ask for a phone call, which we end up speaking for about an hour. If I just take you back to that time, what led up to that? What was going on in your life?
I think
talk us through that.
Well, going from that evening, I think I was studying in the shed at the bottom of the garden.
Okay. You're accountancy. You're an accountant.
I'm a tax advisor.
Tax advisor.
Very different. Mine's more interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, doing a lot of exams for that. Always done exams fairly stressful, but I think at that time I was at a point where I needed to reach out to someone to get some advice. I'd seen what you were doing with your career, and I enjoyed watching, like you say, the videos you were putting out, seeing how you were helping people. I think I'd seen a few things like media-wise. I thought maybe I could talk to Tom about, see if he'd be interested in doing something along them lines. But like you say, the main part of it was I was, to use the word, probably struggling with knowing what to do next, or what to think, what to feel. And I just needed to go to someone that was going to probably guide me with a direct answer, though, not with any say bump around it or trying to palm me off to someone else. It was just I knew you would give me your opinion, and I thought that's what I needed at that point. And I thought, let's see if he'll take my call. Obviously not. I never expect anything of anyone. I've always had that. So if you would have said I haven't got time, I would have said fair enough, thanks for letting me know, sort of thing. But you said, yep, bring me at this time, answer the phone, and we'll go from there. So yeah.
Which is interesting because, as I say, we was never necessarily the closest of friends.
Yep.
We hadn't spoken at this point in 5, 6, 7 years.
Yep.
And I could tell from that phone call, speaking to you from that phone call, that you probably wasn't okay. You were feeling like there were some things in your life you wanted to improve on.
Yep.
You wasn't totally happy with what you was doing at the time. And we spoke about, I can only give suggestions. That's all I tried my best to do for you. And then kind of stay in contact from that point. And like I say, from that point 2 or 3 years ago, now you fast forward to right now, the amount, I don't know how many exams you've now passed.
I've got one left.
Accountancy wise. And I know you're doing something very similar to me on the side of that.
Yep.
Which is like a personal training course.
Correct, yeah.
Which you're passionate about.
Yeah, that's something I think I've always wanted to do. Something that I couldn't always do due to, like I said, we could probably speak about medical reasons, and had to go down a different route, which is why I ended up on the tax advisor / accountancy route of things. Something that I'm not interested in. I do like doing it, enjoy doing it, can do it. Exams are difficult, but if everything was easy, everyone would do it. So
Sure.
it's a challenge for me. So at the time when I couldn't do physical activity, I challenged myself in another way to go through these exams and get to where I am now. But like you say, the PT personal training bit on the side is something that I've always been interested in, but I felt I had to be in the right headspace and the right frame of mind and have myself on the right path to actually take it up and go forward with it.
So I guess if we talk about mental health, would you say, and we'd have to say there's a period in time around this phone call that your mental health realistically deteriorated or lessened off the back of the deterioration of your physical health?
Yes, very much so.
Fair to say. So what was that? You had an operation?
I had an operation when I was 18, so a fair few years ago, 10 years ago now. I had a benign tumour in my spine, which had to be operated on within 2 weeks, or he said I could have been wheelchair bound for the rest of my life. When you think back to that, I think I'm glad I was young when that happened, because when you're that young, you don't process or overthink stuff as much as I would now. So we go in, get it done, assume everything's going to be absolutely fine, you're going to physically recover. And I think what the delayed response was the mental side of that recovery, because when you're going through physical recovery, so you can do this strength exercise, you can do this.
There's a lot of answers.
A lot of answers, that side of thing, but there's never anyone type, or there might be these days, it might be a lot better than it was 10 years ago. So guidance on how to recover mentally, in terms of I was fit, healthy, like I say, football, any sport, I'd be doing it, to be told for the next 18, 24 months you can walk. That's about as far as it's going to go until everything's recovered. So I think from then, a few years up until the phone call, it was just me holding it in, thinking at some point it'll get better by itself. But I realised I needed to take a step to actually then get it moving back in motion.
Okay, so you took those 18 months of very little exercise, if not any.
Yep.
You gained weight at this point. We've had that conversation. So
a lot of weight.
Physically, you wasn't happy with yourself. Didn't like the look in the mirror. You obviously wasn't playing sport.
No.
You, as a youngster, was very into your fitness. Now you can't do it. That's taken away from you, essentially. Is that where, for you, it kind of spiraled? Was it like one day, oh, I'm depressed? Or do you feel like it was a,
I think,
18 to 24 month knock-on effect?
Yeah, I think being able to sit in now and look back on it, that would have been the trigger point that started the spiral of when you start thinking, I'm ever going to be able to get back to what I enjoyed doing, how I love being, not caring the world type of thing. Like if I can play sport, then I'm happy. I'm all good. At the end of the day, no matter how hard the day is, if I'm going to play football or I'm going for a run, I'm going to the gym, it's absolutely be fine. But when you get told you can't go and do that, so at the point of my parents had to go to the gym and make sure, not essentially get me banned, but if I tried to go in, they'd have to tell me not to go in. So it's people that are always there always look out for you to stop you harming yourself. But like you say, it was a bit of a spiral, and it took a few years to then hit where it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then, like I say, was there a specific low point, for example, or was it just spiral down and then maybe a few right place decisions at the right time helped you on the way back up, or was there like a horrendous low point and you've come back from that point? How has it been for you?
I think it's been a number of different points along the way. It wasn't.
Okay.
I can't say there was a rock bottom low point. I suppose there was
Okay.
at some point, but I couldn't pinpoint it as such. It's
Mhm.
I suppose there's things like you get comments from people who have known you or haven't seen you for years. Like the first thing they say is, "Oh, you've put on weight," or "Oh, you've gained weight," or "Are you all
You're
right?"
lazy,
But
or
no one ever asks the
why,
questions.
or what's
Yeah, I
behind
suppose.
it.
But then going back to you can't expect people to
Understand.
to understand or ask them questions unless you're, like you say, close with someone. And so I think I went back to trying to speak to the people closest to me, to try and, I suppose, you explain yourself to why you're trying to explain to yourself why you've got to this point. Like why am I here? What should I have done something earlier? Who should I have spoken to? Should I have reached out? But I think it takes a certain level of maturity or growing up, so you get to the point where then you realise you need to do something yourself. You can't rely on someone else to sort your problems out for you. So I think,
because I'm sure your parents, friends were there for you.
yeah, always, yeah.
Relationships when you was younger, was you in a relationship around this time? Was you not?
I was in a relationship around the age of 17, 18, yeah, before I went to uni.
Did it affect that?
I think, like I say, looking back again, it's affected relationships ever since that point, in terms of, because I haven't been happy in myself, it always get to a point where I feel like I'm letting them down, including like family around me and stuff. So with relationships it's a bit different. You can sort of push them away or break it off or find an excuse. Like with family, they're always going to be there, so you can't do that as easy. So I suppose I tended to pick how to get out of something. So if it was a relationship, it would be don't treat them how I used to, or just something, little things to push them away, and then it breaks down and you think, right, I'm by myself now.
Right.
I haven't got to worry about letting them down, but you're not, just don't want to admit the reason that you're doing that.
So kind of acting in a way where they have to make the decision about you, instead of you
having to talk about it openly.
admitting your own sort of issues that you're struggling with. Interesting. Okay, so I mean, we fast forward to today. When I spoke to you those few years ago, you was, let's say, unhappy with, you wasn't challenging your professional career. There was things you wanted to do, you just didn't know how to get there or what steps to take. Now you're going through the process of those courses. You was single, you're now not. So you met your partner at the gym, was it?
Yeah, she's a personal trainer. Yeah, I met her. I was doing a training program with someone else and bumped into her in the training environment. Yeah,
and that was a positive turning point for you.
Extremely positive turning point. Probably, like I say, probably the biggest turning point in my life to date. Yeah.
Okay, and if you want to elaborate on that, you don't have to.
I say since I met Kate.
What makes her different?
What
about that time, or where are we now that you hadn't experienced before?
It was probably the first time meeting someone on the first date where a conversation just flowed openly from the start about everything. So anything she had dealt with or dealing with, anything I had dealt with or dealing with, just came out. There wasn't ooh, do you want to talk about this? It was, everything just got laid out on the table. And there was no awkwardness, no silences. It was just, and it just went from there. There was no, I wasn't ever worried what she thought, because it just felt like she sort of knew me from that point. Like, so she knew everything about me. So there's nothing to hide. That was me. That was the first time I was probably able to be me from the start of a relationship.
Do you think that's a case of becoming a little bit older and a little bit more mature? You kind of tend, I mean, we all know what we're like at 17, 18, 19, 20.
Yeah.
I mean, we're still finding out who we are. But you want to portray the best version of yourself. If you're good at football, you tell them about that. Or if you're doing this, you're doing that, you wear your best stuff or whatever. And then I feel like if you do go through those levels of maturity the way I think you're supposed to, and then you start to get away from them layers, and you do see a person, and it actually becomes a lot less how they look and a lot more what's the communication like, what's the trust like. Who are they as a person? How do they treat you? How do they feel about you as a person? Can they accept your inevitable past? Whether that's issues, past relationships, anything like that. So I mean, that's, you feel you've obviously found
No,
that.
100%. Until I think you can be, say maturity, until you can be 100% honest with yourself about who you
Oh,
are,
there you go. Yeah.
then you can't be 100% honest with someone you're talking to. So
Mm-hmm.
if I didn't accept all my, you say, weaknesses, strengths,
Mhm.
whatever it might be, if I can't admit that to you, there wouldn't be
Mhm.
much point in me talking so openly about it. So I think it's like you say, trust,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to give someone that trust, I think, first of all, and then you can always take it away. But like I say, it's difficult to do that, but once you're at that level of maturity and
risk.
you want to move forward with your life and
Mhm.
positive things to come, then I think that's when you go for it.
Does she, to your knowledge, sort of feel the same?
I hope so.
Do you set apart from? Has she had any other guys be sort of that upfront, that honest? Has that ever been sort of said to you that was new to her as much as it was to you?
I don't know if she said it was new. I think she said it was just such a good thing to experience someone just wanting to be themselves around her. So
I guess you were prepared for her to say, not for me.
you can ask her this. I wasn't expecting her to turn up.
Fair.
Expected her to turn up. It was April Fool's Day, so I thought she's playing a prank on me. She's not going to turn up. But
Nice.
I'm glad she did.
Glad she did, and now you're expecting a little one.
We are expecting a little one, yeah, come
Congratulations.
August.
That's big news.
Big
and
news.
That's what I mean, to come full circle to speaking to you. And it's only, it sounds crazy, we're sharing it with the world, but me and you shared that conversation, so I know where you was. Without even, let's say, even really knowing you at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd heard murmurs that Sean's not very well. Sean had something with his back.
Yep.
Sean had an operation. Sean's gained a little bit of weight from his operation. I might have seen you out a few times. I'm sure we said hello.
Yep.
A little bit of chat, but nothing that...
Nothing of that detail, no.
No. So, again, to see you come full circle with that is crazy. And I think the key is that mental health is an issue, a very real issue.
Yep.
But it's about facing it.
Yeah.
It's about dealing with it.
Yep.
It's about acknowledging it as it's there, as an actual problem.
Yep.
I would say. And the way I've always kind of viewed it, which might sound crazy, but then maybe people aren't sharing it. I wonder if you feel the same. But for me personally, I've always had a voice in my head that I've interacted with.
Yep.
I've always spoken to myself. I would debate with myself about decisions. I would debate with myself about choices. I would talk to myself. And at times I'd be like, what on earth am I doing? But some people who I've been honest with that about, and I've said, you know what, sometimes I talk to, or I've had people very, very shyly go, oh, this might sound a bit strange, but sometimes, like, you know, I just talk to my head and it's a bit weird, and I'm like, do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And I think most people do.
100%.
And maybe those who say they don't are lying, or if they don't, they should try it. Because whether that's your inner conscience or whether that's our acknowledgement of our true self, I think is important. I think it's really important to really delve into what you are, who you are, what you really think, what you really feel. And like we always say, like people always know, deep down, we know what's right.
Yep.
Deep down, we know what's wrong. Deep down, we know that something's not going to be the best, but we do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, you know, whether it could be that you're in like a toxic relationship and you know you should leave it, but you're not going to.
Yep.
Or many things like that. So the idea that your mental health potentially deteriorated off the back of an operation, something you couldn't control, something that came out of nowhere. I think that's why it's so detrimental, because I guess that feeling of lack of control,
Yeah, 100%.
I think would affect a lot of people. And it's the same, anything, as we say, can set it off. A death of a family member can put someone into a pit of depression. And let's say a pit of depression would be a form of deteriorating mental health.
Yep.
A relationship ending, like not on favourable terms. You know, and that's more of the way that I would come from it.
Okay, yeah.
I've never had necessarily a detrimental injury, luckily. I've certainly dealt with death. I lost a very good friend of mine at 16, which was very tough at the time. I've lost relationships. I've had other halves sort of tell me, you know, you're not what I want. And it doesn't get much worse than that.
Yep.
But until you realise, because the smallest of things I feel affected. So like your daily thoughts, I don't know if you feel this way, but your daily thoughts. So what I really tried to delve into when I was at a very low point, and I might not have spoken about it to people, but I've been at some low points. I think a lot of people might look at me or think that, oh, you know, he runs his own business or successful at this or successful at that. You know, I'm only successful today for now. And it's not even my idea of success.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to get to tomorrow. I'm still trying to help more people. I still want to do more. I still want to give more, which I think is key to continuing success. You know, there's no, I open my own gym. I'm there now. You know, I've made it. You know, it continues.
Yeah.
And at the very lowest of lows, or at least what you feel, I think for me, just grounding myself and humbling myself into really looking around at the world and understanding that the sun still rises in the morning, regardless of how you feel. And once you really take that in, for me, you start to realize it all happens between your ears. Yeah. And sometimes I'd wake up, and especially this day and age, you check Instagram. And like that, mood's done. Yep. Day is gone. Day is done. You are down. You miss that person. You can't handle that they didn't want you. You can't handle that it went this way. You did everything for them. How has this not gone the way for you? And it's so hard. And I've got some people currently going through some things that I'm really trying to be there for. And I wonder if off the back of all your dealings, you try and help people. And sometimes you know the outcome. You know what you should say, but they're not going to believe it, or they're not going to hear it the way you're saying it.
Yeah.
It's almost like if I spoke to you maybe previous in your journey, and I said, you know, come on, mate, just get moving. Yeah. Come on, mate, start walking. It'll be okay. You don't want to hear that.
No.
It could almost have a reverse effect.
Yeah.
And I think some people, you know, I actually think people need to go on their own journey. I don't think your journey could have gone any other way to get you where you are.
No, I 100% agree.
And the same as mine. And if someone had tried to intervene at any point, you could be on a different course, or it might have taken you somewhere else. I mean, it does, like you've said, effectively lie with you.
Yeah. One
day you're going to have to look in the mirror and accept where you are, because you've made some conscious choices to be there at some point. What else would you say has helped you come out of that? We don't have to go into too much detail, but let's say there's people out there who have medication, who are diagnosed with anxiety, depression, different things like that. Have you ever had any diagnosis or medication or treatment, I guess we could call it?
Yeah, personally never had medication. I've had trips to the doctors, to the GP to discuss. Around that similar time I made the phone call, because that's when I'd started to decide to take action, go and speak to someone, try and get a little bit of help, and offered, we'll try you with these tablets, see if this helps. And me personally, I said no to that. That's just a personal preference. I feel like I wanted to battle it myself without the use of a drug, pill. That's not everyone. It works for some people, might not work for others. So from then I went on to getting a referral to do CBT, so cognitive behavioural therapy. There's a bit of a waiting list for that, sort of 8 to 10 weeks, which some people then just don't follow through, which is what I found. In the build-up, I was sort of seeing things here and there, research, people just don't then answer the phone, or different things happen in that time. So I've done that. I've done 7 weeks of CBT, Skype therapy. So the waiting list was even longer if you wanted face-to-face. So I went with Skype to get it in, and you're still talking to someone direct. So it's a complete stranger. It's someone new. But for me, that opened a lot of doors in terms of how my mind works and how I process thoughts. So within the first 2 sessions, he'd come back with responses, and it was, you think, how do you know me? Like, how do you know me? Because he was coming out with things that I would think in my head that I'd never say, and he was relaying it back to me. And then that's when it hits home that you're obviously not the only one out there that thinks in that way. They've dealt with it, they've seen it, they know the right approach to take based on how you've spoken to them. So you fill out various questionnaires, and they always give you a score, which I don't tend to agree with, because I don't like looking at numbers in terms of trying to judge someone's
who you are or what you are, or your issues,
mental health position. So from there, then he just spoke about things that hit home like really quick, and it just it makes you process things in a different way. So he told me after two sessions that I overthink. I have a high self-responsibility, so I never want to let people down. So that's where the ball starts rolling with most things for me, and then it leads on to, like you say, anxiety, worry, everything else that goes with it. So yeah, 7 weeks of that, and then you go on to other referrals if they think you need something else from that. But for me, it's definitely a way to build on yourself, because you have to talk about yourself, and they're talking back to you as yourself from what you've told them.
Sure.
So it's a direct answer to any questions you have, or I suppose it's less fear when you're talking to a stranger. Sometimes, like say, you're not a complete stranger to me, but when I spoke to you, but
I could have judged.
You could have judged. They could judge, but
years before,
so, yeah, you have to sort of.
So your experience with cognitive behavioural therapy is
very positive.
A very
one,
positive experience. Yeah. Okay. So you'd suggest that for people. Let's say someone who's not diagnosed.
Yep.
Let's say who would that apply to, in your opinion? Someone who's sitting at home right now thinking they're not good enough. Someone who's sitting at home not liking themselves.
Definitely, if you think you're not good enough, that's definitely one of the things that came out of it. For me, they say you think you're not good enough, so you either don't try something, or it's just a fear. It's a fear of not doing it, for letting people down or letting yourself down. So anyone I think got that fear of maybe opening up or maybe not knowing what the first step to take is. I remember making the first phone call and hoping they didn't answer. But I still pressed the button, put it on, like little things, put it on loudspeaker and put it at the other side of the desk, so I had to speak, just something, so it didn't matter what came out, as long as something came out at the time, and then
You was obviously at that point.
Yeah.
And what role did the gym play? Because I know that you were sporty as a youngster, but over the last 18 months to 2 years, you've certainly got right into the gym, bodybuilding style training, fair to say, resistance training. So how's that helped?
I think because I wasn't allowed to exercise for so long, went back to football as soon as I could, but the gym was, like I say, 24-hour gyms these days, so it was late night, I wasn't feeling great. It's somewhere to go and get a planned session, you can follow a routine as and when. And it was also a way, like I say, where I met Kate, so you interact with people either similar to you, have had similar experiences, or potentially feel the same way you have at some point. So you can go into a massive gym, you haven't got to talk to everyone. I probably talked to maximum 5 people in there, but felt comfortable in there doing it. So comfortable to ask questions was a key for me in the gym. The gym played such a key role in terms of not a confidence thing, just being able to talk to someone, if it was a PT or just someone in there that was just training near you, or just asking to join in the set. Just something little like that was, for me, really helped, because it's that type of environment.
Sure. I still believe the gym is probably one of the most underutilized antidepressants there is. And it's funny, some people's idea of the gym, or what they think towards the gym, because for me, the gym is full of insecure people. The gym is full of people who are not satisfied with how they look. They're not satisfied with how they feel. And when you break it down, you're actually going into the gym, generally speaking, to push yourself to a point of failure, or to push yourself to a point of where you must stare yourself in the face with nothing left, and kind of face that, and come back from that and get that feeling of overcoming. You know, you done it, you finished it. And it happens even for me now. You know, I always said, I probably said about 5 years ago, the gym for me now is more mental than it is physical. Yeah, 100%. Which sounds crazy. It's a very physical thing. No. But my mind would be very, very different if I didn't go to the gym for a day. My body wouldn't really change. No, I'm a big advocate. You probably heard me say many times. Sure. And the mindset for me was such a key thing. It was, even if I went into the gym, my mindset was, I need to do this today, but I didn't feel like doing it. I'd do something else. So it was the mindset just to stay in there and get it done, because I know it's going to make me feel better. And I think with the gym, I always want to go back, and I treat that as every day you get up. If I want to get up and do it again, it's a good thing. Sure. So, I would always say, I gave this advice to someone today, if you find something that takes your mind off the thing that's bringing you down, if you find something that's helping, do more of it. It sounds super simple and almost stupid. Sacrifice something else to do it. Find something that works. Whether it's listening to podcasts, whether it's listening to music, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's sitting with friends, all of these things, if it's good for you, do more of it. Again, sounds silly, but
No,
why would you not?
I think, like you say, it's sort of doubling down on your strengths. So if you enjoy
Yes.
it, do that for another hour a day,
Sure.
rather than sitting, like you say, with Instagram and social media. It can be a really good thing. It can be a really bad thing, or other things that you might dwell around and do nothing for an hour, and you think,
Sure.
I could do something I love for an extra hour, and it takes away that hour of maybe sitting and worrying or overthinking something. So
Exactly that. Or even reading a book or any leisure
Or
activity,
whatever
whatever it
you
is you
enjoy.
must find. And everyone's different, of course.
yeah,
But I suppose you grow up through like the school system and being in football teams, and everyone seems to gravitate towards the same things, but it's not for everyone.
no,
So you're going to lose people in that system. You're going to lose people who aren't bold enough to say that's not for me.
no,
I don't like
yeah.
that, or I like this type of music. Can we play this sort of music?
No,
No one wants that sort of music. You know, for example, it's on the whole doesn't really give a great collective outlook, but
no. When it
we have
comes-
to accept individuals as what they are, and push people's strengths, push people's voices, improve communication, improve trust. Let's get people being able to talk about things.
Yeah, I think it goes back to accepting who you are, or accepting
Sure.
what you love, where people do worry too much what other people think. But I think, like I say, when you're young, it's hard not to. Like I say, growing
Mhm.
up through the school system, I think it made it easier for me being part of a football team, because I thought I was quite
You
good at it and
accepted,
enjoyed
right?
it,
Yeah,
rather than
it's part of
other
the
stuff.
group.
But like I say, I accepted I was good at that. I could do that, but I couldn't accept the other things I wasn't so good at, like say
Sure.
talking or
Sure.
other things like that. So I think it comes down to, when you reach that level, you'll know when you reach it, and you can start accepting you for you, and then you just, I
Mhm.
think from there the ball can start rolling as long as you want it to.
And how did you, for people wondering, because there's probably people don't know the question to ask or the steps to take. Let's say just getting into the gym. How did you start with that? Did you dip your toe in, or did you jump in?
I think
head
I'd
first?
always trained, but not trained. Now I know what training is. Like
Mhm.
the last 18 months probably. I went with a personal trainer, Courtney,
Shouts
and
out.
yeah, he was doing I saw online transformation program, 12-week, and that was probably December, so probably a few months after I'd spoken to you. I'd seen it, and again messaged him, and again similar response to you. It was a direct response, which for me worked.
Mhm.
It was, are you going to do it or not? And
Mhm.
I needed that. I was like, yeah, let's do it. And it just for me,
Committed
it
and
made
went.
my decision for me, rather than a few months before I would have been an hour in and probably not done it, because I would have been like, maybe I can't do it.
Mhm.
So it was still something new, because I'm going into a new gym, new area, everything like that. But for me, after the conversation with you and the stuff that developed since then, I just felt a little bit more confident, and sort of, why not
Yeah.
give it a go? And then if it doesn't
Hmm.
work, you find something else. So
I think that's something people need to build on. Like, you can't just walk into the gym and know what you're doing. And a lot of people make that mistake in January. A lot of people make that mistake 3 months before their holiday.
yeah,
And it sounds like I'm selling, but I don't think you can put a price on 2 or 3 months of personal training if you don't know. Like, you don't just walk into the golf club and buy all the gear and just go and start playing golf. You're going to get a few lessons.
Yep.
You don't go skiing without getting a few lessons.
Mhm.
It's not just normal everyday knowledge to go to the gym.
Mhm.
And it doesn't count when you do your 10-minute treadmill, your 10-minute row, and your bench press and your bicep curls.
Yep.
And you do that every day, because you're going to be bored within 3 sessions,
Yeah.
which is most people's issue. Whereas if you invest, it might be £200 or £300, but that could save you from injury. That could motivate you for the next 2 or 3 years, give you enough tools. Then you can go back and learn some more
Yeah.
if you want to, if you need to. But it will set you up on such a good path. Because also, I wouldn't suggest someone, oh, I'm really depressed, I'm going gym, and you go every day. I wouldn't even suggest that.
No.
I'd suggest pick something and stick to it. Go like 2 days a week,
Mhm.
and you'll be amazed at how good it can feel to just tick that off.
Yep.
I've committed to twice a week. I went Tuesday and I went Friday. Tick for the week.
Yep.
And then the next week the same, the next week the same. And I actually got a Wednesday in as
Mhm.
well this week. That's an improvement. Tick that off, tick that off. And then that can build and spiral into who knows what.
Yeah. Like I
Just
think
building on that and the confidence.
Just having
goes
a
from there.
focus, rather than let's go in there, it's going to help.
Sure.
Some
yeah.
people it might, but like I say,
course.
99% of people.
Everyone's
That's not-
individual, and I don't think there's one answer, and we've not been trying to find an
Mhm.
answer. There's a lot about your ways and what you've gone through, and I appreciate your honesty. And I guess the main thing is, everyone says talking to someone, picking who that person is, thinking about that, and then just taking steps to find. We're very, very good at knowing what we don't like,
Yeah.
and knowing what we don't want to do. Let's start looking for things that we do enjoy, things that actually make us happy, things that actually take us to a point of enjoyment.
Yeah, 100%.
And that can only help.
Yeah, so I say happiness is, well, I always say you define it yourself, same as success. Success for me equals being, well, humility and happiness, but then it depends how you define yourself, each one of them things. So,
Sure.
but I'd say don't be afraid to ask. If you ask someone and they don't give you the response, you shouldn't expect to know what they're going to come back with. So don't be afraid to ask who you think you should ask. And it could be the wrong person, could be the right person, but there's always going to be someone there you can ask.
And if you don't understand,
Ask again.
ask again and keep asking.
Yeah, and if
Annoy
they people will give you their time if they're the right. Not everyone's the right person for everyone. So like I say, it's individual preference or what works for you. So, but you're not going to find that person or find that way out unless you do. I know it's very hard to ask. Very, very hard thing to do. But once you do it once, the next one's not so difficult. And then after that, like I say, I think ball gets rolling, and then you never know, the opportunities are.
If you don't ask, then the answer's always no.
Yeah.
Simple as that. All right. Thanks again, mate. So you can catch this on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube. Thanks, Sean, again for coming in. Much appreciated. And I'll catch you down the road.